A thread by Carlos Osuita. Someone said earlier that Biden may have chosen Kamala Harris because she's a throwaway. The Democrats know that President Trump will be reelected, so they didn't want to squander anyone. No. The Dems are convinced they're going to win. They all live in microbubbles, so they have no idea what's really happening. The Democrats believe everything they say about Trump, including their conviction that he's stupid and unable to do his job. You have to truly understand cognitive rigidity in order to grasp this. I've been gathering information about assault troops of World War I. When the war started, all sides advanced in skirmish lines. The French ran while the British walked. They were slaughtered. The absolutely horrible thing is that the British and French continued to do this all the way to the end of the war. Multiple German junior officers, including Captain Erwin Rommel, realized almost from the beginning that skirmish lines were suicidal. The only way to advance was this. 1. Use heavy artillery, machine gun, and mortar fire on the enemy to force him to take cover. 2. Advance in small groups using no formation, taking cover behind features of the terrain. No single person invented what we know today as open formations and fire and movement. At least 4 German junior officers did so simultaneously, and individual rifle companies did so as well. All German. The British and French convinced themselves that the solution was a creeping barrage of artillery. The men would advance at a walk, close behind an artillery barrage that moved forward. Then the men would engage the enemy with bayonet. They were prohibited from loading their rifles during the advance. The British and French trained Americans. General John Blackjack Pershing objected to the tactics, saying that the men had to be taught how to fight in the open. He was overruled. During their first battles, Americans were slaughtered. The reason is that the Germans simply stayed in their artillery-proof concrete bunkers until the barrage had passed. They could man the parapets in seconds. By 1918, the Germans had massive firepower. Each regiment had 72 heavy machine guns, 54 light machine guns, 15 light mortars, 3 medium mortars, and 24 grenade launchers. All these weapons could open fire before those advancing troops could arrive. The US Marines used the British and French tactics once. It cost them so many lives that on their own, they came up with the same small unit fire and maneuver tactics as the Germans. See, here's the thing. If you posit certain factors, nearly identical solutions are found. That's why you have animals from entirely different species that look almost the same. A shark and a dolphin, for example. Sharks are much older than dolphins. The closest living semi-aquatic mammal related to dolphins, surprise, the hippo. For those of you just listening, it's a hippo. The hyrax is related to the elephant. Elephants and hyraxes look so different because they went in opposite directions in order to survive. One got really huge and one got small and fast. The skirmish line was eventually abandoned by land forces because it killed everybody who used it. Only riot police use skirmish lines. Cognitive rigidity endures until the person pushing the failed idea is no longer able to control the environment. When the cognitively rigid are removed from positions of influence, reality intrudes. Democrats are 100% cognitively rigid. There's no secret plan here. What you see is what you get. No superpowers, no ability to steal the election, no rationality. If they were rational, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing, which is demolishing themselves. Not one sane person in America accepts this. From the New York Post, Black Lives Matter organizer calls Chicago looting reparations. From the article, quote, I don't care if somebody decides to loot a Gucci's or a Macy's or a Nike, because that makes sure that that person eats. That makes sure that person has clothes. That's a reparation. Anything they want to take it, because these businesses have insurance. Cognitive rigidity. Blacks have no choice but to be criminals. Textbook racism. The reason for all crime is either terrible or absent parenting or mental illness or both. A stable household with nurturing parents does not produce criminals. Several years ago, I was in a Jiffy Lube waiting room and a crowd of little Hispanic boys came in. They were all about 9. One had an older brother who worked there, so the kids were allowed to come in and hang out. Judge Judy was on TV. One kid shyly said to me, She's scary. She really is, I said. I don't like her. She's like a witch. They all laughed. And they asked me what I was doing there. I explained that my car was getting an oil change. Why do cars need oil changes? One asked. I explained. What's a transmission? Another asked. I explained. Suddenly, they were all asking questions. What's a credit card? What's a checking account? How do airplanes fly? I opened the door and told the mechanics to go ahead and give me everything on the menu. It would cost a lot more, but this was a once in a lifetime opportunity for those kids. I answered their questions for an hour. When it was time to leave, one kid said, Don't go. You're nice. You talk to us. It was hard to leave them, but I had no choice. I couldn't invite them over, of course. But they'll always remember that day. The way I remember Mr. Copeland. He took me canoeing one night from his lakeshore house. He worked with my father. For whatever reason, he picked up on the fact that I was shell shocked all the time, so he just said, Hey, let's go down to the lake. So I got up and went down to the lake. He handed me an oar, and we went out in a canoe. He sat in back, rowing. We said nothing. The night was blue. I could hear fish jumping, frogs singing, and whippoorwills calling. Every star in the sky was visible. Finally, he said, Isn't this beautiful? Yes, I answered. That canoe ride sustained me for my entire life. See, he showed me that not all adults were crazy and violent. Not all adults made fun of you. It was enough. Cognitive rigidity is denial. It's a desperate fight to survive. Both my parents denied their cancer until they died of it. At the time, 2013, I didn't know what real cognitive rigidity was. The Democrats are like my parents. They're denying that they're dying. So, no, they don't know they're going to lose. Their identity depends on them winning. Trump's Judas goats brought all of this about. This didn't just happen. Trump engineered it at least 20 years ago. Look what he's done now. He got Biden to choose the one running mate who would do him irreparable damage. Listen until he takes the next question. YouTube video from yesterday's press conference. Check it out. Link in the description to the thread. The second time Trump says, I was a little surprised when he picked her, he looks right into the camera for the only time in the press conference. Hang on, let's see it. For those of you just listening, we're showing repeated pictures of Trump. Here he is, looking straight into the camera. And you thought you couldn't admire Trump's brilliance more. Ha! The best is yet to come. Addendum. As expected, tons of cognitive rigidity in the comments. This is necessary. The fewer people who grasp Trump's operation, the easier it is for him to carry it out. Still, it's eerie to see so many minds shut as tight as bank vault doors.